Welcome to Module 7, Quality Management. In this Part 1 lecture, we're going to explore general principles of quality management and quality management systems. And then in the Part 2 lecture, we're going to drill down and look at some very specific quality control tasks and also talk about your assignment for this module. In this Part 1 lecture, we're going to talk about quality and what it is, what it means. Then we're going to talk a little bit about risk management as it relates to quality and the concept of a quality management system, as well as a quality plan or corrective action plan and its corollary, a corrective action and preventive action process, or CAPA. And then we'll close with the root cause and root cause analysis. So we're going to move through these topics fairly quickly because really I just want you to be aware of the broad definition and the terminology so that when you go out into industry and people start talking to you about a CAPA or a CAP or a root cause analysis, you'll have some idea of what they're referring to. So let's start by defining quality. What is it? Well, the ICH defines quality as the degree to which a set of inherent properties of a product, system, or process fulfills requirements. So essentially, you're not defining quality as a base level error rate. You are saying that quality depends on what your requirement for use is. And you know, that really comes back to this whole process of, or concept of, being fit for purpose, that you look at what fit for purpose is, you define the requirements for meeting that, and then you look to see what are the risks or potential problems that could keep you from meeting those requirements. And then ultimately you create a plan for managing those risks and ensuring that you get the quality that you're looking for. So I want to take us back to Module 1, where we again define quality as being fit for purpose. And I want to take a look at that nice slide that Dixon and Pierce compiled, where they are essentially looking at, is the data accurate? Is it accessible? Is it complete? Is it relevant? Is it reliable? Is it timely? Is it valid? Remember, these are the characteristics of data quality, and it really comes down to being fit for purpose. Are you going to be able to use the data to do what you want to with it? And I want to remind you that, as we discussed in Module 1, there is no regulatory definition of quality data that we can go to for guidance. In general, the drug development industry expects that quality data is fit for purpose, again, complete, valid, and it has an acceptable error rate. Now, fit for purpose means the data can be used in the analysis and decision-making process. In other words, will the data allow you to answer the questions you are asking with the protocol? Data is considered complete if all the expected attributes of the data are present. For example, all start and stop days for adverse events might be present in the database. That would be considered complete. Valid data is data that is correct and truly represents the values it's intended to measure. And remember, again, there's no regulatory definition for an acceptable error rate, but in general, the drug development industry considers an acceptable error rate between 0.1% and 0.5%, or 10 to 500 errors per 10,000 fields. So we just spent some time talking about quality data, but when we started this module, we noted that quality is not just the data, it's also the process, and it's managing the risk to that process. So in the industry, in about 10 or 20 years ago, people essentially just did QC at the end of the study, and they fixed any errors they found, and they said the data is valid, we're going to analyze it. But over the past decade, there has been a move towards a concept of quality management that extends through the development life cycle. So instead of just performing QA and QC at the end of the study and fixing the errors that you find, you actually build quality into the system and you build quality control into the system early. So an excellent example of this is the ICH FDA Q9 guidance for industry, and that's called the Quality Risk Management Guidance. And it's really borrowing from manufacturing guidelines, because the manufacturing community got on this idea of life cycle quality management before the clinical research group did. The Q9 emphasizes the point that quality should not be an in-process check, but a proactive identification of potential risks and the development of a plan in advance to mitigate or reduce that risk. So this really is kind of a corollary to that whole concept of risk-based monitoring, because again, we're talking about identifying risks before they happen and developing proactive plans to deal with them. And I like this grid here is showing a quality risk management system and the components of it. And this was actually, you'll find a copy of this in the Q9 document, which I'm going to have you read parts of. So let's talk about the term quality management system. What is a quality management system? Essentially, it is the people and processes that are used to ensure that quality is built into your process and that you have a way to assess that quality. It includes quality management, quality assurance in terms of groups and people. In terms of tools and processes, it includes evaluation, analysis, and quality risk management tools. The tools that you're going to use to determine if you are producing a quality product and if you are assessing and mitigating risk appropriately. It also includes the concept and elements of preventive action. What are you going to do to prevent a quality issue or to prevent an issue from recurring once you've identified it? Also, risk management. How do you evaluate the process and identify potential risks and then mitigate or manage those risks? And finally, the concept of continuous improvement. Where are you building assessment and improvement into your quality cycle or your product life cycle? So I've included a link to the FDA and ICH guidance document in the Module 7 reading section in the Module 7 content folder. If you want, feel free to read the entire document. I think it's interesting. However, I'm only requiring that you read the first sections, 1 through 6. The later sections really deal with more with manufacturing in itself, but the sections 1 through 6 give you some very good insight into the FDA's concept of quality systems. So let's circle back to that concept of using a quality risk management system to prevent problems, not just to find and fix them. A major component of any quality or risk management system is having a formal plan to correct the problems that do occur and then ensure they don't occur again. We use quality or corrective action plans, also called CAPs, or corrective and preventive action plans, CAPAs, to do this. So CAPs or CAPAs, they're essentially the same thing, but you'll hear both phrases used in the industry, outline what the problem was, how it happened, and most importantly, what will be done to ensure it doesn't happen again. And this is really the key thing. It's one thing to say that you know what went wrong, but what the industry and particularly the regulatory agencies want to know is, what are you going to do to make sure that problem doesn't occur again? And I thought this was kind of interesting. Mary Tara Roth wrote an article in 2011 called Developing a Corrective Action Plan. And in it she includes some examples of the FDA's comments on responses to their audits that they felt were incomplete or insufficient. And this one comment that I've put in here is the FDA says that the site response to an audit is inadequate because the site doesn't say how they'll prevent the problem from occurring in the future. So really, your corrective action plan needs to not just say what happened, it needs to outline the actions you're going to take to correct your system and make sure you don't have the problem again.
The last general quality management system concept I want to cover is root cause analysis, or RCA. So, root cause analysis extends the focus on preventing problems from occurring in the first place or recurring once you've identified them. We have a tendency to discover and fix problems without correcting the system error that allowed the problem to occur in the first place. For example, if someone files a document in the wrong project file, we want to do more than just refile the document. We want to figure out a process that will prevent documents from being misfiled in the future. That could mean restricting access to the file, or developing a checklist, or perhaps implementing a barcoding or OCR system to take human error out of the process. So essentially, root cause analysis is a method of problem solving that tries to identify the root cause of a fault or problem. And what is a root cause? A root cause is a cause that, once removed from the problem fault sequence, prevents the final undesirable event from recurring. So essentially, a root cause is the true source of the problem or error in the process. So when you're doing a root cause analysis, essentially you're going to define the problem, collect data on it, identify possible factors, and identify the root cause, and then implement solutions. You might also hear people refer to the 5 whys. Why did it happen? Why did it occur? And essentially going through asking the why question until you get to the point where there's nothing past it and you've identified the root cause.
Before we move on to the Part 2 lecture, I want to remind you that you have several assignments for this module, and we only have a week, so you don't want to procrastinate. You need to review all the contents of Module 7. We have a midterm exam coming up, and I am going to have questions in there that are based on the lectures and also on the readings and videos. I particularly want you to review the mock quality control plan that I'm going to talk about in the next lecture. And I want you to review the quality control written and video instructions that are going to go with the assignment. We'll talk about that in the next lecture too. Finally, you're going to have to I've assigned some actual QC checks that I want you to do in REDCap. And you have to remember to submit your assignment using the Module 7 assignment submission link. Some of you have forgotten to do this. You felt like if you did the work in REDCap it was done, but I can't submit a grade for you until you use the Blackboard submission link. So make sure you do that. Ask me questions if you're not sure how.